Good morning, good day, good evening, whatever your time zones may be, it doesn't matter, you're here for GPRL and GPRL only. Today here for the final of the GPRL Sprint Series round number 5, event number 5. We go to the final qualifying session. As always, I'm joined with Adam Adensky. Adam, welcome to the commentary booth. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad, Alex. Obviously, as Alex has just mentioned, guys, we are here live for the final round of this summer series for GPRL. And boy, do we have an exciting championship battle for you. We're in one-shot qualifying at the moment, guys. So as you can see, the order is changing all the time. That's not for the race. You're in one-shot qualifying, and the aim of the game here is to have one lap, one opportunity. It's mum's spaghetti time, and it's all these drivers have one shot to set the fastest time possible to set the grid for the feature race. Now, but we're seeing coming through the final corner as Kai looks like he is on course to get another pole position here. The championship leader, who has it all in his court at this point in time, comes through the final straight now. What's the time going to be? 1 minute 8 dead.
Strong lap time for one shot. To come out and snap that in, the championship leader Kai Elting. It's been quite a topsy-turvy week. But wow.
It has, yeah, I'm amazed at how quick these guys are over one lap with all that pressure and how easy you can get it wrong. And you can see so many guys have got it wrong, Alex, as you can see from the order. And Salim, 3 seconds back, but starts 12th. That just shows how far up the grid you can go if you manage to keep it on the black stuff and avoid invalidating your lap.
And look, Ardipol Gamer at the back, remember how notorious he's become for gaining positions.
Oh, absolutely. The first lap merchant. Or the mercenary, as I like to call Ardapple Gamer, so good off the line with his starts. And but as you can see, once again, Kai Elting getting on pole position, Marine in second place. So a big return to form. And of course, at this stage of the championship, guys, we should let you know what the permutations are. So at this point in time for the driver standings, Kai Elting on pole position. Now the aim of the game is very simple for him. If he wins this feature race, he will win the GPRL Summer Series Championship without the sprint race even needing to be contested. So that's all the motivation for him. He's got a 12-point lead over Luke at the moment, and of course Tim Wenting is also in the championship battle, but he's a bit further back on 50 points.
Tim just 22 points behind Kai, but some of you will notice that the man who led the championship for a considerable amount of time, Jai Fletcher, has been disqualified and removed from GPRL following misconduct and comments made throughout other leagues that have been circulating on Twitter. And I'm sure you've heard of that, but nevertheless, we've got a feature race to do. Kai Elting, championship leader, on pole position. It's lights out and away we go. A poor start for Kai there. He's dropped down to 4th. It looks like Aaron going round the outside into turn number 1. Mariah's got a good start. He's up into the lead as we go down the hill of the Sen S. Luke round the outside of Sem. The Notix up into 4th.
Yeah, Kai's start got even worse there, Alex, as you can see, as the safety car's just come out. And yeah, he ended up going to the back of the field. He got a poor getaway, and of course, for those of you who watch this series regularly, would have noticed that there was no formation lap. So I wonder if that caught Kai out. But yeah, as you mentioned, what a nightmare start. And obviously, while the safety car is now just coming out in the background, as you can see, yeah, absolutely right, Alex. Obviously, as you mentioned before about Mr. Fletcher, and well, as I said, whilst we obviously want to promote diversity, especially now, we can't condone use of that language or behaviour, not just in our league, but in other leagues as well. So I think the right decision's been made on that one. But obviously now coming back to the race, we've got the safety car out, Alex, and this is going to create an interesting scenario now, because Kai obviously had to go down to the back from pole position, the man that needed to win this race, Alex, in order to win the championship. The safety car's got him a bit of a preview, and he's also got damage on his front wing. So even though it's a nightmare start for him, he's got an opportunity now to try and see if he might put on a fresh set of tyres that could go to the end of the race. What would you do if you were Kai at this point?
Yeah, well, it's a no-brainer to pit, really, isn't it? It looks like he's got a red front wing there. He's going to have to dive into the pits. That's what he is doing. He's actually overtaken Tim, I think, in the pits, his championship rival. Tim started on the mediums, so an interesting call for him to come in for the soft tyres to go. By the time the safety car comes in, I think, oh, you can see Luke being held there by Salim, who's being held by his teammate, so a little domino effect. But yeah, Tim presuming it stays dry, let's not forget, look at the conditions, Adam. It's quite dark, it's quite gloomy. We know it Interlagos in Portuguese, meaning between the two lakes, so rain is always a threat here. It's a possibility.
Yeah, you're right, Alex. Yeah, definitely a possibility of rain being a factor, as quite often in Brazil we've seen rain, especially when championships are being decided. And yeah, you're absolutely right there. I think what was interesting, and I'll tell you what, I absolutely loved that from Kai there, where Tim was going slow into the pit lane, sort of sitting in the queue, and Kai just thought, forget this, I'm overtaking you, because you can do that. Once you go past that line to go towards where the pit lane is, you're allowed to do that. I remember seeing Sebastian Vettel doing that in China a few years ago, where he got held up by a few cars and thought, forget this, he just overtook them, he's let Tim back through.
I think it may have been held following that front wing change, but we've got the safety car in this lap already. The Notix, Sem, VRL F1 commentator, my co-commentator, in the lead, and in second it's Matthijs, your co-commentator, Adam. So it's a battle of the co-commentators here at the start of the feature race. There goes Sem, he leads the pack across the line to restart this short safety car period. The pack somewhat bunched up. Sem leads into turn 1, followed by Matthijs. Shady Records, that's Aaron. That's not Aaron, I apologise, a little bit confused with the names. All crazy through the centre S. What's going on a little bit further down the pack, Adam?
Yeah, as you can see, it's going all over. You've got Benjamin Ardappel-Gamer, the master of the one-lap starts, already up into the top 6 already. You've got Cookie, and now he's up into 5th, I should say, as Cookie Gamer goes very, very wide in the Alfa Romeo. So, as we expected, Benjamin wasting no time. You've got Marine there up into 8th place after making that stop, being followed closely by I Drop Your Mum on the harder tyres, and then you've got Luke as well. Currently in a good position at the moment compared to his championship rival, but only has the 1 point, so he needs to make progress up the field, followed closely by Semar, VRL F1 champion for this season as well, in 11th place, hunting him down. Interestingly though, Alex, on the softer tyres, I'm not sure if he started on the slower compound tyres. He might have done, so he could probably go to the end if that is the case.
Quite possibly.
It's going to be difficult.
A lot of drivers opting to pit. I've just seen Kai making his way through the field up to 14th now, so he's on the brink of points. Cookie Gamer with a little bit of damage. Further forward, as you mentioned, Sam, VRL F1 champion full season 4, up in 11th place. He's lost 1 place from his starting position after getting his lap time validated, but he's pressing on with this as we go down the centre S to start the 4th lap. A surprisingly short safety car period actually, so the pack maybe not as bunched up as it could have been. A little bit further forward, Lucas defending from Alex. It's quite an interesting top 5. I don't think any of us would have predicted this, but Sem still holding off Matthijs. Remember, Matthijs won this sprint race back in
Italy,
was it Italy or was it Austria?
Yeah, it's the Italian sprint race, yeah.
Of course. Your memory's serving you good there. We've got this battle up at the front. Sem has not pitted, and forbid me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I'm not sure if I can see a few raindrops on the onboard cam of Sem there. May just be my eyes.
Yeah, it tends to play with your eyes in this game, especially in the conditions. I can understand what you're saying. I'm almost looking on board with Tim, who's just overtaken Kai for 14th place, although he's on the softer compound tyres. But
sorry to cut you off here, Adam, but Matthijs going for a move on Sem round the outside. It seems a relatively easy move. Sem blocks off the inside, not able to make that work though. An easy move for Matthijs. Sem going to stick in behind. DRS should be enabled either this or the next lap, so if Sem can get in that DRS, remember back to the VRL race here, the slipstream train, the DRS trains that you can get around here can sometimes be quite crazy. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Think back to VRL F1, we had something like 7 or 8 cars separated by 2 seconds on the final lap of the race. It could be just as crazy today, Adam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm looking forward to how the sprint race is going to unfold when people start to be a bit more ballsy and go for moves they wouldn't normally do. Yeah, it was a good move from Matthijs there, getting the move done on Sem. Surprisingly, Sem did not fight him back because he was quite close to him into turn 1, decided to give up that place. Interesting enough, Marine, leader of the one-stoppers at the moment, in 7th position, and see Sem there, our VRL F1 champion in the Renault, making the move on I Drop Your Mummy in the Williams for 9th position. So they're all getting a move on. They'll be looking at that field, but right now Marine looking very good, as everyone ahead of him still has to make their mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, I'm just thinking championship wise, Adam. Kai down in 12th. His nearest championship rival, Luke, he was 12 points behind him, currently up in 8th. That will bag him 4 championship points. which will close the gap down to 8 points, which means Luke will have to, well, get second, then it will look to count back. If he wants a definitive win, he'll have to win the sprint race as things stand. But it's not all over. We're only 6 laps in. It's been a crazy race so far. I'm seeing Moraine make a move past Yannick Holzhauer, and yeah, it's all going quite crazy. Meanwhile, Ardepol Gamer's up to third. He's charging through the field.
But he's got to stop as well, Alex. So he's obviously got to try and get a move on, along with Matthias and the Nautic Sem as well. Interesting enough, you're right to point out Luke in 8th place right now. That is the lowest position he can finish in this race and stay in the championship. If he finishes 9th or lower, even if Kai doesn't score in this race, then Kai will be champion. So right now Luke in the position he needs to be to keep this championship alive, but only by the finest of margins at the moment. He really needs to try and climb up the field, although he will do, along with Moraine most likely, when the 6 of the 7 drivers ahead of him will pit for their mandatory pit stop. So Luke's not in a bad position at the moment.
Yeah, Lucas in the Alfa Romeo has had a good turn of form in the last couple of races. He's moving past Shady Records, starting to score really good points for the Alfa Romeo team. It's all getting quite close to the top. Is Sem re-overtook for the lead. We might go 3 wide down this second DRS straight. That's a double DRS move. And Ardepol Gamer from the back of the grid takes the lead. Crazy. I would say we couldn't have predicted it, but it's getting kind of predictable now with Ardepol Gamer starting from the back of the grid, Adam.
Clearly he just doesn't like qualifying that much and he wants more of a challenge. Clearly the guy is a bit of a fetish for last to first challenge videos because he's very good at it at the moment. But yeah, brilliant move. 3 of them going wide there. I mean, 2 of them had DRS. Of course, the Nautics made the move on Matthias early on, so he didn't have the DRS, and then Benjamin, our double gamer, did a brilliant move there, getting in between the 2 of them with double DRS, as you mentioned, and just swooped by them before the corner. So brilliant stuff from him, and he's already pulled out almost a second already from Matthias in 2nd place.
We know Benjamin has won multiple races, including a win in VRL F1 back in the British Grand Prix. Sem now pressurising Matthias. They're still battling for the final podium position, or the last few steps on the podium, as Lucas now comes in to this battle. We could get another 3 wide moment, and possibly early signs of these tyres starting to degrade, the softer tyres, as Sem looks around the outside of his commentator compatriot. Luke's in there as well. It's absolutely crazy here down into turn 4. I didn't really get a great camera angle of that battle there, Adam. What was going on?
Yeah, well, you had Sem there trying to go to the racing line, but obviously Luke was there behind Matthias getting a nice tow. They banged wheels, and somehow Sem managed to get into the corner before the 2 of them. So you've got 3 drivers right now, pretty much nothing to separate them in terms of pace, and you can just show the difference between Ardepol Gamer and the 3 guys behind him fighting. He's a second and a half ahead of them, and I'll tell you what, he needs to pull away our Gamer now, because he needs to make a mandatory pit stop, so any gap he can build on those medium tyres will give him the best opportunity to really claw them all back in when he makes a stop onto softer tyres later on.
Yeah, on board with Matthias now. Is he going to pit? He is going to pit. Sem stays out, so does Lucas. So Matthias looking for an undercut, tries to get it slowed down. No penalty for him. It costs you quite a lot of time, as it does at any track, but 5 seconds can really make the difference, especially in a field this tight between points and no points. So this is going to put Kai up into 8th. Kai has stopped, but he has stopped. So by the rule of the law, he can go to the end. Meanwhile, Luke making good progress. This is good for his championship challenge. He's a couple of places ahead of his championship rival. One thing to note as well is that Kai cannot race in the 2nd race today. He has to leave following this race, so he's going to have to get as many points and just hope things go his way in the sprint race, the final one of the season. But nevertheless, with all this battling at the front, Moraine has caught up, and this puts him nearly a pit stop ahead of the likes of Lucas, Shady Records, and Sem, who's about a second up the road. But considering the difference in the tyres, there could be a massive pace deficit between some of these drivers, especially Ardepol Gamer, who's really getting his foot down now at the front.
Well, the magic number for Kai really is to stay at least within 4 points of what Luke will score in this race. And the key factor, Alex, and we're going to see this come later as Benjamin, our double gamer, makes his stop as quick as he's been, gets a time penalty for his trouble, so that's not going to help him out. But as I was saying on the fact that Kai, I believe that as this race comes to its conclusion, it's going to come down to one car that Kai will have to pass to make sure he can win this championship in the feature race. And you know who that is? Luke's teammate Tim on the soft tyres, and those are going to fade towards the end of this race. So Tim has got a massive job now in fourth position, because if he can't keep Kai behind him, Kai will win the championship regardless of what Luke does, with Marine a second, well, quite close actually, but Marine still leading ahead of him.
Moran's been putting in a solid race so far. He's going to inherit the race lead. Sam has gone quite long on these tyres, trying to get a big overcut. He's not doing a bad job, to be fair, Sam. You're going to have to try and put his foot down with all the power in the world in this final stint, but Marine will inherit the race lead to Luke. Luke, if he wins today, or in this race, it's going to set him up very well for the feature race. But also remember, winning today is going to put him at the back, and being at the back of a 20 driver grid, it's going to be a busy one down into turn 1.
Well, as we saw in Baku, really, the name of the game there is to survive, and I think Luke's probably not thinking about that right now. I mean, you can see the race win is right there in front of him. It's in the shape of a Red Bull, Honda-powered Red Bull in Marine, and it's only less than 6/10 away. And the beauty of having the DRS around Brazil is so powerful, as you mentioned earlier, Alex, that Luke can just tuck in behind him and just follow as close as he can, and when the opportunity strikes for him, then make that move. And he probably does need to win this race to make sure he's in a good position for this championship.
One good thing to remember as well is that when you sat in the DRS, the amount of ERS expenditure that you use throughout a lap is something like 70% of a lap you're at full, maybe admittedly not that long, but there's a large proportion of a lap, I don't know the exact stat, that you're on full throttle. So the amount of ERS expenditure in the low speed corners, which really chew up your tyres and your ERS, being sat in the DRS and even the slipstream just allows you to sit back, conserve, whilst the driver ahead has to use the energy to push away.
Well, as Sem finally gives up the ghost and pits, and to be honest with you, I understand why he probably stayed out, but I think he probably waited a bit too long to pit there. But yeah, you're right to point out the ARS, because I'm looking on board of the two Mercedes who have relatively similar amounts, around about 30 to 35% available left, whereas Marine has just under 50%. He's starting to use his battery now, but he's been able to use Sem as a, if you like, to really tow him along nicely, and that's going to help him in the latter part of this race now. While the Mercedes drivers will have to conserve their energy, Marine has a little bit more available as well.
Yeah, I've just noticed Aaron, I Drop Your Mum, goes by the PSN. He's gone on to the soft tyres, so clearly not liking them hard tyres. He was up in 7th, so clearly in the last 6 or 7 laps of this race he's confident that he's going to be able to make up that time. It's not the longest pit stop here, but then again, it's still 19 seconds or so it'd be interesting to see how that one goes down. In terms of what was the battle at the front, Matthias has undercut Sem by a couple of seconds, but nevertheless, Sem with 3 lap fresher tyres, that could start to help him out come the end of the race, Adam.
Could do, but those mediums will probably do around about 10 laps or so, or 11 or 12 laps or so, before you really need to worry about losing pace. So I think he'll be okay, as long as he can stay within Yannick ahead of him, his DRS, which he is at the moment. But Sem looking pretty quick on those medium tyres at the moment. He's just bolted on, so he's got them up to temperature very nicely.
Still looking to the front, Luke seems pretty happy in the DRS of Marine, who is still doing a solid job. Up in the lead, both these drivers on equal amount, or on the same age tyres. Tim ever so slightly behind, who's actually pulling a gap to Kai considering the age of his tyres, but it can't be long before them tyres start to drop off, and I don't think it'd actually be bold to assume or to suggest that Tim could be in puncture territory stage come the end of this race, which will be 15, 16 lap old soft tyres.
Yeah, and that's a good point to make there. And right now, as it stands, Luke will still be in this championship hunt. And if Kai is not racing, that's going to give him every opportunity to win the championship. However, if Kai gets the move done on Tim, then it's championship over. So Luke really has to try and clear the leader, Marine. But at the moment, Alex, I'm looking at Marine. He conserves his battery really well in the slower parts of the track, where he's a lot faster than Luke. Luke is very much relying on using a lot more of his battery and the DRS to keep him within touching distance. Right now, it seems Marine in the Red Bull has Luke covered off at this point in time.
Yeah, just following Yannick now. Seems to be quite an easy move. Round the outside of Enrico into turn number 1. later on the brakes. He's got softer tyres to his use there. That's a nice move from Yannick, the oldest serving GPRL driver. Enrico is going to try and come back in with the DRS. Hopefully not similar scenes to Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel down here in 2019. They're going to go side by side into turn number 4. I think they're just about going to make it through without contact. Great respectful driving between the two drivers there. Who's going to go back up the hill now. Enrico is going to send one back to the inside. It's really close to make a little bit of contact. Somehow they've both kept their racing cars pointing in the same straight. Enrico, little look down the inside. Important to remember, both of these guys have been racing in GPRL for a very long time. Thinking back to season 2 when Enrico joined Yannick, back to season 1, race 1, back on F1 2017. So really old guns here, and as I say every race, really putting the GPRL name to good use. Matthijs is right up on the back of Enrico now, and his hard tyres have really gone at him.
Yeah, he's starting to struggle now. He fought really hard now as Matthijs is coming through the final part. He will have DRS as well, so Enrico's going to be fighting a losing battle. He'll tuck in behind the Toro Rosso driver, though, to see if he can get a nice slipstream into turn 1. He'll still have DRS coming through the second part. It's a 2-part DRS coming here now, so hopefully might have an opportunity. But, yeah, as you can see, it's not really worked out for him on this occasion. He fought that really well, though, with Jan, it must be said, but he has much older, harder tyres. It was inevitable that he was going to lose that place.
Yeah, just seen Autopilot Gamer make a move on Fabio, or also known as the Red Bull. I'm not going to try and pronounce his PSN. They really keep us busy, Adam, don't they, with some of the PSN names. We'll be requesting double pay, but Autopilot Gamer now up into 6th, just behind Rico, who's drove a strong race for the second race in a row. He's pitted early. But I expect Benjamin, who's come through Junção, to dispatch of him very quickly.
Well, critically as well, one thing we didn't notice that come up is that Luke has a 3-second time penalty, which is critical because at the moment, despite Kai surprisingly dropping off on the softer tyres as Benjamin makes the move into 5th place, but it's coming back to Kai Elting in 4th at the moment. Luke has a 3-second time penalty, Alex, so if I'm right, Tim, his teammate, needs to back off a bit here, because if he doesn't, then Kai's going to be the GPRL Summer Series champion without having to do anything because of the time penalty that Luke's got.
Obviously we expect a little bit of tyre wear, but is it too little too late? It's important to remember, we've got 2.5 laps left. It's absolutely flown by, and yeah, at this rate Luke's going to drop to 3rd, and yeah, you're right, the difference between 3rd and 4th is 3 points, 15 to 12.
But we should point out as well that whilst Luke is not in the right position at the moment with that time penalty, Ardapple Gamer is clawing Kai in on those softer tyres. So it could come down to the final lap, Alex, where Ardapple Gamer could prevent Kai from winning this championship as it stands if he overtakes him. So Kai right now has to get a move on, because in the moment I believe he's in prime position to win this championship now as things stands. But if Ardapple Gamer overtakes him with 2 laps to go, that all changes.
Of course. Really interesting prospect here as we enter the final couple laps of the final feature race of the first ever GPRL Sprint Series. Ardapple Gamer really piling on the pressure. He's got less than 2 laps now to do it. Also, what I've noticed, Tim within DRS of his teammate. So Luke's absolutely dropped off the cliff here, and which is really surprising considering Tim on them 15-lap-old soft tyres, he's somehow quicker than his teammate.
Yeah, I find this amazing how Tim has managed to make those soft tyres work so well, and yet not only his teammate, but Kai has really dropped off the pace on the mediums as well. And I think I'm just looking through penalties, I think Tim and Kai both have penalties as well now, so this could get very, very interesting. There's us thinking that, well, there's me thinking that Kai was going to win this championship, but I don't believe that's going to happen unless something dramatic happens in his favour. But right now, he's under massive pressure from Ardapple Gamer, who's now within DRS as we go into the final lap of the race.
Looking back to the front, he's pulled a solid gap. Marine up in the lead in his Red Bull that or not the same Red Bull, but in the Red Bull branded car that he steered to victory back in season 4 of GPRL. He's looking to claim another win. It's a little bit too little too late for him in the championship, but he can still bolt up quite a few places. Tim right on the back of his teammate now.
Benjamin's overtaken Kai, Alex, for 4th, so he's got that move done.
So now that's a 5-point deficit between Kai and Luke. presuming time penalties switch them around, the two Mercedes. But
right now, Kai is gonna. Yeah, so Benjamin made the move, but Kai is gonna drop to 7th in this race because Millennium Kid and Shocky Pappy are both within 3 seconds of him, I believe, at the moment. So we'll have to see how it goes over the line. But man, this is changing all the time.
Nevertheless, looking back to the front, he's the most decorated driver in GPRL history. He's going to add another win in GPRL to that illustrious list of wins. It's Ryan Olibol who crosses the line and wins the final feature race of GPRL Sprint Series. Luke crosses the line second, finishes second. Tim comes home in P3, both drivers picking up equal penalties. Ardapol Gamer, a solid drive from last position on the grid up to P4. As you said, Adam, Rico 5th. Fabio 6th, Kai only 7th. That is 6 points, I believe, for the Racing Point driver.
Yeah, and critically enough, what that does is now, if my maths is correct, Alex, because Luke held on to second, they're both tied on points. However, Kai will be champion on countback if no more points are scored. But what that means effectively, if he cannot race in the sprint race, Luke could win this championship by just scoring a point in the sprint race. So
it's
a
all
top 8
going
finish
off.
will be enough for Luke to win this championship. Further looking at the Constructors' Championship, seeing that Mercedes drivers have scored 33 points, Alex, to Racing Point have scored, let's do the maths quickly, 10 points.
Yep,
10
your maths
points,
is better than mine.
So with that in mind, I believe Racing Point have won the Mercedes, excuse me. Mercedes have won the Constructors' Championship for the Summer Sprint Series. Yeah, they have, yeah. So they had an 8-point lead to start with. Add another 23 points onto that. The maximum you can get from the sprint race is 18. Therefore, by minimum, they would have won it by 13 points. So congratulations to Mercedes for winning the Constructors' title. But now, the Drivers' Championship, Luke and Kai level on points. Luke needs to score 1 point to win this championship, of course, if Kai does not race.
Yeah, let's not forget, most importantly, the Luke will be starting P20 or P19 after Kai leaves the session, but that means he has 11 places to make up through the carnage. The pressure's on. The pressure's on. I can't wait for this, Adam. We've got 3 drivers in the party. Marine, what a drive, kept it clean, and another win to add to his list. What a drive from second on the grid. Made the strategy work. Then it's the 2 Mercedes, Luke ahead of Tim. They had a good race, and yeah, fair play to Tim. Not only coming from 14th on the grid, but making them tyres last. I don't know how he did it, and I'm looking forward to hearing from him.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how a few guys on the softs that made their tyres last a long time had relatively good pace. I mean, we talked about Sem, the Notix, also on the softer tyres in the same position. So, yeah, brilliant job from him. Just looking through to invite our top 3 to the podium chat while you set up your lobby for the sprint race.
So, yeah, we're going to interview the top 3 for you whilst we just fill this gap as I set up the new lobby. So, Adam, we got the top 3 drivers.
So and we have Marine here, our race winner of the feature race. So Marine, excellent job. Once again, what are your thoughts on that race?
Well, it was a good race. Safety car, that was the right strategy. And I managed to pull away from Luke slightly, so pretty... It wasn't much easier than I expected, to be honest. Brazil's not really a strong track for me.
No, it's a good point you mentioned this. Obviously you race very hard. I know a lot of energy when you had Luke right behind you. Did you feel that you had pace in the bag to sort of keep Luke behind you if he was right on your tail, or did you feel that you were pushing?
Yeah, no, I didn't feel like I had the pace until like lap 14 when he dropped outside of the DRS, and then I was pretty sure I was going to win this. But yeah, until that point, it was really, I thought Luke had more pace, but yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations nonetheless, Marine. Excellent drive, and of course, best of luck for the sprint race.
Thank you.
So in second place, by the narrowest of margins, we've got Luke M95 with us. So congratulations for you and your teammate Tim for winning the Constructors' Championship for Mercedes. What did you think of your race?
I think it was an okay race, to be honest. I'm now with Kai on point, so this is pretty nice, but my pace wasn't that good, so it was a bit, it was the point
Yes, no, actually, I'm glad you made that point about the Drivers' Championship, because yes, indeed, you are now level on points with Kai going into the final sprint race. Now, with Kai not able to compete in this sprint race, you only require a point to win this championship, of course, as he has it on countback. What are your tactics going to be? Are you just going to go for it and try and get that point, or are you going to try and calculate your moves?
I think we've seen in the other races that the 5 lap is it's pure carnage, so I'm just gonna avoid everything, at least try. So.
Oh, well, wish you the best of luck. Can't wait to see what happens, and it'll be fun to watch. Congratulations, of course, on the second place and the Constructors' Championship for Mercedes in this series. Luke M95. So rounding the podium, of course, Tim Wenting finishing in third position. Tim, as I said, Luke, congratulations on winning the Constructors' Championship for Mercedes in this summer series.
The start wasn't the best. I was really cautious. And my strategy was pitting lap 1 for the softs. But the safety car came out, so Luke decided to pit as well. And that cost me a lot of decisions. But I had a great comeback race and drove really consistent on the softs. And came back third.
Yeah, I've got to mention, you put on the soft tyres, as you said early on. I've got to ask, how last that long? And also, you were quicker than almost everybody else, even with very old soft.
I think this trick's just good for me, with no assists as well. Yeah.
Oh, well, it was an excellent second stint to that race, and congratulations on the third place and also on the Constructors' Championship as well for Mercedes. And have fun in the sprint race, I guess.
Yeah, thanks.
Brilliant.
Awesome. So we're just waiting on I drop your mum, Aaron, to get back into the session, and we'll drop him in between Lucas and Matthijs. As when he rejoins, we'll be ready to go, Adam. So, what did you make of that race? Absolutely crazy.
Well, I think what's interesting in that first race, Alex, is it was 2 stages. Obviously, you had the drivers pitting in after that really strange start that brought out the safety car. But I really think a testament must be made to Tim in particular for having an excellent drive on the soft tyres, doing 16, 17 laps on them. And by the end of the race, he was faster than anyone else. So it'll be interesting to see how this will translate into the sprint race. Of course, it's going to be a 5-lap shootout, reverse grid order. And I think the one thing now, with the Constructors' Championship out of the way, has to be, can Luke, from, I believe, 19th on the grid, or at the back of the grid certainly, can he get into the points? Because he only needs 1 point. And I think the focus has to be on whether he can do that. What do you think? Do you think he can do it?
You know, I think we heard him say that it's going to be absolutely crazy. That's that basically. Interesting to see that Matt is selected as a spectator.
Someone needs to tell him.
Yeah, I'm gonna send him a message now. But yeah, absolutely crazy, and we know that these last couple of races, the 5-lap race, is always crazy. I can't wait to see how this one goes. It's going to be a big ask for him to take that 1 point, but it's possible. Will weather play a part? We're going to see right about now.
I mean, if it was Ardapple Gamer, I'd bet my house on it.
Well, yeah.
Because he's the master of the first lap, and it's dry conditions. But Brazil has been the venue for many championship finales in the past in the Formula One world. It's quite legendary for a circuit in that position. Just trying to look through my notes for this. Shouldn't have it, but it's fine for now. But I tell you what, I'm really glad that this championship has really come down to the final race to find out who's going to win this championship. Is it going to be Kai or is it going to be Luke? And it's worth pointing out, guys, for those of you that haven't followed us throughout the series and obviously want to know the permutations, it's as simple as this. Kai is not racing in this sprint race, but currently is the champion as it stands. Because he's won 2 races this season, Luke has to score a point. If he fails to do that, Kai will be champion. However, any points position he will, as we're about to get underway.
Here we go, Enrico and Salim, I believe, jump in the start. It's carnage already here as we go into turn number 1. Sam then Hotix leads into turn number 1.